There we go.
There you go.
Unfortunately, I mean, yes, we can hear.
Do we want to? Is the next thing to say.
Well, that remains your choice, Tony.
Well,
always, Chris.
Can I say to those of you joining us late, welcome one and all, and here we are for the feast. There's a few people who won't be able to leave comments on this particular post, just simply because you were very silly recently, and you told us that. Oh look, there he is. You told us how sorrowfully wrong we got it, and don't worry about fearing playing somebody who's a bit good. Don't worry about that. Don't worry. All you need to do is believe. Belief is enough. And unfortunately, I think our belief has been stretched, to put it kindly and brutally at the same time. So, chaps, let's start with you, Chris, because you appear to be audio successful as we speak. What are your thoughts and no threats to kill or disembowel on this show, please?
So, over the years that I've been a Spurs fan, I've seen some almighty implosions. I can go back to 3-0 up at Man United, losing 4-3. I can think about being, 3-0 up against Man City in the Cup, and did we lose something like 4-3 on that occasion when they were down to 10 men when Barton got sent off? But we totally eclipsed all of that yesterday. A game where it was so easy for the first 45 minutes. 2-0 up, absolutely coasting. What went on in that dressing room at half-time, I would love to have been a fly on the wall to have listened to. Probably no team talk taking place whatsoever. And then a load of overpaid fancy Dans came out and completely imploded. To the point, as soon as they scored that first goal, all of us as die-hard season Tottenham fans knew the writing was on the wall. A shambolic, pathetic, spineless performance that is the DNA of Tottenham Hotspur Football Club. It was pathetic.
Tony, he's hoovered up most of the superlatives there, but what were your thoughts?
Apart from everything about that, and the game that springs to mind for me is the Man United. Remember when we were 3-0 up at half-time at Man United against Man United? We lost 5-3. The moment the first goal went in for Man United, you could literally feel the whole entire crowd go, "Oh my God, we're going to lose." And I was sitting there with my daughter last night watching that game, and I said, "We're going to lose this because it's just, as you say, it's in our DNA." But the most important thing is it only took one small tactical change from Brighton to make it all work. And sometimes simplicity itself is the best solution to something. He just got rid of Kadioglu because he was being roasted by Kulu. Got Estupinian on and shut the door on him basically. And after that, it gave Mitoma a license to roam forward at will. He was doing that a lot of the time in the first half, but he was kind of hampered because Kulu was pushing him back. Second half, he would just run forward like a Viking at will, plundering and pillaging our defence. And it was one small change. And the only thing I could say is, why does it take from the 65th, 66th minute when Welbeck scored the third goal to the 78th minute to decide, oh no, I need to change something?
He's just clueless. I tell you what I observed going through the data this morning, which took forever. I've got to get up earlier and start on these because the download time is just excruciating. But looking at the typical positioning play, that map where you've got all the dots with the circles and the numbers in them, it looked evident to me in the second half that all our guys, especially from the back to the front, just moved forward. Difficult to know what it means in terms of a pitch presence, but it looked to me maybe 7, 8, 10 yards tops. It was quite sort of gentle. It wasn't like a massive thing, but it chimed with me what I'd actually seen on the game. And Brighton pressed, and clearly, in my view, both teams had been told by their coach, go and get them. Come out the traps, go and get them. Spurs ran into treacle and Brighton ran into space. and our defence made a muddle of things. That's not up for debate, but we were let down in a few areas. And I've got a couple of statistics to share with you. Kulusevski, his passing only hit 68%, which I know he's quite a forward line player, but that simply isn't good enough. But he gave the ball away on 11 occasions, most of which was when he was under some degree of pressure. Pedro Porro wasn't terrible, but his passing, and again, this is for a defender, it isn't good enough at 75%. And he excelled in one respect, that he recovered the ball 16 times, which is loads. It's an absolute bundle of recoveries. So real standout stuff. But again, defensively, Destiny Udogie, 88%. And it's got to be 90 plus. I think I'm right in saying that Romero was 99. Mickey van der Van, or whatever his name is, was 98. This is the area that you need to be in. So whilst 88%, if you're 12, sounds like quite a lot, it isn't sufficient. It just simply isn't good enough. So we've got a combination and a perfect storm. And a special dishonourable mention for Timo Werner, which I'll throw to you. Wolves in a few moments, 64% passing accuracy. Absolute bungler of the highest or lowest order, depending on what your view is. But you've got a perfect storm here of individual technical errors, and I think naive management. And I made the point on the Substack this morning. I've only hit the button on it a few minutes ago, but it looked to me, and we get into this sort of pop psychology grey area, but it looked to me that Ange realised, and I made the analogy that he was like a guy who just backed his car gently out of his garage and heard the scream as he went over next door's child playing with their toys on the driveway. He looked to me like a guy who'd inadvertently done something pretty bloody horrible. And he said, we have to improve. We've got to be better, blah, blah, blah. I think much of this is on him. I've made my position clear. I don't trust him. It's not about liking him because I'm not 12. It's a question of trust. I don't think he's got enough for the task. But that's how I saw it. And I thought Brighton looked magnificent in the second half. First half, they looked like they'd be in a relegation fight. Second half, they were just magnificent. We have to commend that. But they were the first decent team who was able to be reactive to the way we played. We were playing teams in Europe and at home in the Premier League that were stupidly priced in the betting markets. A child could tell you that we weren't playing a top tier side. And this was the shortest price. I always use the betting thing because I very rarely put a punt on these days because I lost too much money as a teenager. But you can tell it was a really good indicator because you very rarely, i.e. never, walk past a closed betting shop. You never ever see a shut betting shop. They mostly get it right. The house invariably wins is the correct phrase that pays here. And I just think we're going to see more of this against better sides. We'll thump somebody. I can't remember who we've got next. We've got the breaker, West Ham, Man United, Manchester City, sorry. But I think we're going to see more of this where we play somebody good and we'll be left looking like chumps that don't really understand the game.
Yeah, we're like flat track bullies, aren't we, really, effectively? That's what we are. When we can play against teams that don't really offer an awful lot, even then we struggle because like Karabag and Ferencvaros weren't exactly falling over themselves to be that great.
Well, they were 8 and 5 to 1. Those aren't prices for Premier League football sides. Those are prices for a horse race. Those horses, if you're lucky, you might get a bit of each way love out of them.
we made hard work of it. Even at those prices, we made ridiculously hard work of both games.
Yeah.
And yesterday, it was like we'd thrown the first punch as a schoolyard bully, and then someone decided, actually, I'm going to throw a punch back. And then we went, what? You thrown a punch at us? How dare you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because we looked absolutely in a state of shock and awe. Brighton weren't doing anything magnificent. Yes, they were excellent, and they got themselves back together. As a team, they functioned superbly well. They didn't play like a team. that had conceded 2 goals at home. They played like guys who thought, hang on a minute, what we need to do is, and they did that and came back. Who particularly got your goat, Chris? Was there anybody on the Spurs side, or are you just heaping this majoritively on thick Dundee's shoulders?
What I would say, if Ben Davies had been playing and wearing the left fullback shirt, he'd have got absolute pelters for that display that Udogie delivered. He was absolutely all over the place. If that had been Davis, we'd have never heard the end of it, and he'd have been frog marched down Tottenham High Road. The other one, Bentancur, bloody useless, playing as your supposed defensive midfielder. For the third one, he needs to put his laces through that ball, and he needs to put it in Rose Ed. Quite what he was thinking, I do not know. But every single player on that pitch had one thing in common. There wasn't an ounce of leadership amongst any of our starting 11. Nobody got stuck in when it got a bit niggly, or nobody led by example. We were a bunch of cowards. No one there trusted that you would want by your side in a punch-up.
I think we've spoken on this before, but you know that thing that's come, I think it's since Ange, I can't remember and I don't care, but this business of them getting in that huddle and having this, I think it's for the cameras. I genuinely 100%. Think it's for the cameras. And Vicario was doing this thing of, you know, like Adolf Hitler used to do the old black and white clips. And I just thought to myself, if that was me, and obviously I'm deranged, we know that, but if that was me and I was in that, I'd be like, mate, wind it in. I do this for a living. There's nothing you're going to impart to me. It's like when they bring on a substitution who gives loads of hand signals and, you know, this, that, and the other to everybody. He's not actually shaping the team. He was a guy that wasn't good enough to make the starting 11. That's where he enters the conversation. And so for a goalkeeper, first season in the Premier League, who we've seen shout at Bergvall, I just thought to myself, this is a pantomime. And I think that's where we are with this side. And I said to you the other week, this is a side that likes to win against rubbish players, rubbish teams, in front of lots of Koreans. And that's where we are now.
Another thing, we've been fortunate over the years to see some exceptional centre-backs. And in that sentence, I include Ledley King, Jan Vertonghen, Toby Alderweireld. But I'm going to say that Romero does not belong in that sentence whatsoever. What a overinflated fancy Dan who lives off of winning a World Cup and a crap World Cup tournament. His hands are on his hips. They give him the ball. He doesn't know who's going to pass it to as nobody's moving for him. He tries backheeling out of his penalty box when being pressed by an opposing attacker. And he thinks he's doing us a massive favour by being at Tottenham. Well, it's 60, 70 million. I'd drive him to out of Mongolia myself, so I think he's bloody overrated and crap.
What about you, Tony? Who's on your hate mail list? Or are we allowed to say that? That's very vengeful and hurty, isn't it? We can't say that.
I'm not a vengeful or spiteful person by nature, but bloody hell, Timo Werner, can somebody just please put a rocket up his arse and send him to the moon? For God's sake. Honestly.
He was toilet. So he was absolute toilet. He really was. I mean, he mispassed. He passed to people that didn't exist, that weren't there. He did. It was like these, you know, A to Z of soccer skills books and stuff you get. And the Timo Werner, you know, playing football for dummies book would just be a 20-minute clip of him playing with a football because he'd cover everything.
Or miscontrol it, as he often does, you know. And it was, I mean, I'll give him his credit. He did that pass for the goal. Yeah, good pass, you know, sort of, that's fine. So you always got to give a bit of credit, but that's one pass in about 3,000. Yeah. You know, and it's just not good enough. It's not good enough for somebody who's on the wage that he's being paid. He's a shoo-in every week. God knows why, because surely anybody by now can see that he's not fit for purpose. No. But Ange insists it's this intrinsic. It's almost. I don't know whether it's stubborn. I'm going to be a stubborn person. I insist I'm going to do things my way. My way is the only way. I'm not going to change. I'm telling everybody I'm not going to change. I'm going to do anything, things I want to do. Well, yeah, it's great, mate, but you're not. Well, what you're doing isn't working. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result.
Yeah, I mean, we're with you on that. I mean, for anybody who's struggling with the notion of not accepting that you're making poor decisions, look at Jose Mourinho. Hold your, I don't like him. He's a nasty, hurty, birdy person. Hold that. Look at Jose Mourinho. Look at his CV, right? That's paid for all these beautiful homes and his fabulous life and all the silverware he's won. This guy, I've seen him make double substitutions in like the 35th minute. And when they've spoken to him at half time, well, not half time, but at full time, they said, Jose, what the hell? He said, I knew I'd made a mistake. That is leading from the front. That is a guy who says my way or the highway. And it's backed up to the back teeth with the fact that he doesn't make boo-boos very often. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's like, 11 out of 10. But he knows when to pull the trigger, and he's got form for it. And this is going to be so hurty and upsetty to people, but he's been doing it with the Honolulu Blue Jays and the Heroin 11 up in Scotland. I'm sorry, but this is the Premier League. And we get fed this, endlessly by the broadcasters because they talk up the product. But it happens to be true. This is not a straightforward league. All leagues have their different challenges. The Championship, and I won't go through any more, but I'm just making the point, it's a war of attrition. You got to have legs. You need to have like 3 teams worth of players to survive it. You need to use the loan system. All of these things. The Premier League, you need your best 11, and then you need another 5 or 6 ideally. So when your bench comes out, people aren't giggling at it. And as you say, starting Timo Werner, dear, oh dear, oh dear. 17 million euro, it says on Transfermarkt. 70, you'd be lucky to get 7 million euro for him. And we saw Fraser Forster with his chimpanzee arm on the side of the tunnel thing, the pitch where the seats are. Where he's going, I mean, you can't say it, you can't use that language these days, but somebody should throw him a banana. It just looks like a monkey.
It's ridiculous because when you look at one of the things that you see quite a lot, especially in as you say, in the bloodletting and the aftermath, was, well, these are Angie's players, and these are the players he wanted. Well, I'm going to say, if that's true, and how much that, I think we all were very sceptical of that particular statement anyway. If that is true, then his judgment is well in question, because he can't possibly turn around and say Solanke was the missing piece. He's had one good season, and you're then saying he's the missing piece after one half decent season. No, sorry, that's not good judgment.
And then yesterday we didn't supply Solanke with anything, and I think he must have had about 2 touches throughout the game, and I felt sorry for him that we weren't.
I think he's a victim in all this. I really do. I think
you're setting this guy up to fail through not giving him channels to run into, not providing him balls to flick on, and he was just wandering around like a lost tourist.
It's the mental fragility as well that really it seems to be endemic in our DNA as a club. I don't know why. I cannot get to that at all. But I've as someone who does referee at grassroots level, I've watched clubs, absolutely rip each other to pieces at half time because they're not playing well, and they come out in the second half and they give it a go, or they respond and they react, and they do things, they make changes, they do things. I just don't see any of that here. None of it at all. The players, ultimately, people say, well, it's the players' fault, but it's the manager who sets the tone. He's the one who actually determines how people are going to play, their behaviour, their mentality. I mean, those, like we said before, I know we've sort of like messaged privately about this nonsense about pitch geography. The only geography that matters is the bloody goal.
That guy, I mean, looking at his face was just surreal, because he, again, is part of the pantomime, and he's sitting there with it's almost sort of like Roger Moore, quizzical eyebrow. And I appreciate he's had an injury, so he's got his hair brushed over, but he just cuts a ridiculous figure, sat there as if he is thinking of anything which is relevant or useful or of currency in the situation, as his team have basically pulled their shorts and their underpants down whilst tying their shoelaces together. He is just a ridiculous looking figure. But I wait to be, stuffed up by all these losers who are just obsessed on backing the latest Levy product. And the idea that he's, as you say, he's selected these players. What he's done is he's done the same thing because it's the same guys in charge. Got lots of middle management, but basically you've got one guy pulling the trigger on writing a check or pinging the money to buy a player and making the selections. And he'll say, boom, 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 you've got 6 choices there. And if you want to choose something that isn't on the menu, you're going to get a no. And those 6 choices will include the players that Daniel, because Mother knows best, has done in his final selection. So Ange goes down this ridiculous pantomime route of saying, well, he's a Tottenham player, he's one of my players, as in I'm in charge, which is a great vote of confidence. But the reality is, if you were walking down the invisible high road or whatever fancy scenario with a pocket full of cash and saw Dominic Solanke standing there giving you a bit of an easy eye, you wouldn't give him 65 million quid. It's just surreal. I mean, you look at Maddison, and I made started off for this as a joke, and it has come full circle. It now looks like it's going to be true. He's never going to play for England again. These people's idea, their vision of themselves is just delusional.
Part of that vision, which led them to think, oh, we've coasted through the first half, all we need to do is turn up on the pitch in the second, and the 3 points are ours. But you're coming up against people who want it more. They've got more enthusiasm, more ambition, more aggression, and that's endemic of the football club. It's so long since we last won something. We've forgot what winning's about, and we've forgot what league game mentality is about. We've got a bunch of average Joes there, and all of them need to see a sports psychiatrist, as they are well short of the level that wins championships and trophies.
I think they'd be very lucky to get an appointment with our sports shrink, because I think he's spending most of his day on the phone to Richarlison, trying to get him to talk into the right end of the phone. I mean, this is another nonsense. I mean, but it makes sense. If you look at it, if you step back, you take a breath, pause the tape, step back, and you say, you know, if I didn't know better, I'd think that the guy that bought Solanke also bought Richarlison. And then if you say to yourself, hang on a minute, Timo Werner? Oh no. Yeah. But we've got this guy, we've got Lang, we've got, what's its name? They're not involved. Yeah. They're not involved. One of them is operational. We were being fed this twaddle, mostly by Gold My Beer. The guy that was at the airport, the baldy guy who looks a bit Daniel Levy-esque with the glasses, he's operational. He was on the Spurs official website, on their website, holding up a shirt when they'd signed a artificial grass manufacturer in China. So we all know what steaming hellholes of industrial misery is going on behind that particular product. Again, this is from a side that will tell you with a straight face how their carbon emission ratings are A-OK when they're not, because they're flying to bloody Australia or Tokyo or wherever it was to play West Ham, which you could theoretically catch a bus to, and it might take 25 minutes to get there. They're just it's through the looking glass.
I suppose the elephant in the room that we've got to deal with is Postecoglou himself. Stood on the touchline yesterday like a bloke who's just returned home to find his wife being entertained by his best friend. He looked completely dumbstruck. He looked like he was gazing into space. And when those young lads look at the manager for some guidance, motivation, or some direction, he had completely gone. He had checked out and he was staring into the abyss. And I was looking at his body language thinking, we are doomed, I tell you. This bloke is not going to get a tune out of people who were 2-0 up and then imploded and lost 3-2. And if that is your leader, if that is your guiding light, that is the voice that you hear in your ear Monday to Friday, then God help us.
I looked at him last night, and he loosened his tie. Now, I'm a big guy. You're a big guy, Chris. We've both worked in where you have to dress formally. Okay, so this is going to bore some people. But he must have about an 18-inch neck and 18 and a half, 19-inch collar on it. So he opens this thing, and suddenly the shirt goes, and then you've got the tie sat there. He looked like a coach driver. Now, I know it's a cheap dig, You say, "Oh, you look at me, you look like a scaffolder," or whatever. You just make a sort of throwaway remark, but he doesn't look like a guy who knows what he's doing, and he's been poured into these Just Eat delivery men sort of coats that are sort of this fake attempt to get something that will wrap round him and won't make him look utterly enormous. And we all know the tricks of the trade. I mean, I'm not, I'm not morbidly obese, but I tend to wear a lot of dark colours. This is an unusually bright thing for me. I tend to wear a lot of dark colours. You know what you're doing at his age. He's not some kid living off of what his parents buy for him, and he's not helping himself at all. But I think you summed it up there perfectly. He had checked out. Absolutely checked out. He was already at home asking the wife if she wanted a cup of tea while he was in the kitchen. That's what was going on there.
Followed up by his media interviews, and you think somebody has got to be from the hierarchy has got to be saying this bloke is not representing allegedly the 8th biggest club in world football. Because if he's had any on the day they did media training, he was obviously absent because to not even make eye contact. Look, I'm sat in my living room talking to you on the camera, but I'm looking at the camera. You've got him who does everything outwardly possible to stare at the floor. And I think you, Tony, posted something which told you about what the actual mechanics of that type of behaviour are. And it's not good.
Yeah. It's somebody who lacks confidence and could also, it's when you're looking down and you're making eye contact, there could be a number of different reasons, but it normally, especially during interviews, it tells you categorically he has no confidence in what he's saying. He knows he's basically having to polish a turd, and he knows it's a thankless, and he knows he can't do it because everybody can see through it. Well, glitter would have been better, but
No, I think the lack of eye contact and the staring at the floor, and people have made the point about that cabbage from the club, with the grey beard, and he goes, does this keep him constantly rearranging his feet? He goes, well, it's not all about winning, mate, but what did you think of that link-up play that built up into nothing? He asks stupid questions. He's an irritating personality. He is Mr. Hospital Radio. That's where he's come from. I'm sure of it. He's not come from anywhere good. When he's finished doing this, he'll be back selling sofas for DFS or Furniture World or something. He's that kind of guy. He's the biggest guy in the room, but he's very, very small in the brain department. He's harmless. But Ames looks at the floor and it's like the contempt that he is oozing out of every pore. It says to me that he has, first of all, as you say, that has no faith in what he's saying, but also he actually fundamentally objects to being questioned. And that to me is another symptom of his craziness.
And then there was a pre-match game about facing Brighton. You also play a high press. It's going to be a really open game. How we go counter that openness? Oh, we just go keep it open, mate, because that's what we are and that's what we do. You're thinking, are you actually talking for real? That is what I'd expect to some
fecking Einstein.
Some fucking retard who plays Championship Manager 9 hours a day in their back bedroom, not a Premiership manager paid 15 million a year.
I could understand all
this.
this.
The lost years.
I could understand. I could take yesterday if it was a blip on the radar, where every now and again these sorts of things can happen because it's the Premier League, But this is endemic. When you look back to the first 10 games of last season, fine, everything was all hunky dory. We all know what's happened since then, and it shows. It's like he's. I don't know. Sometimes they say you've got to reach rock bottom to get better.
Well,
mate, you're getting there very quickly.
He's achieved that as he's making Juan de Ramos look like a brilliant Spurs manager.
Honestly, you
got to hit rock bottom. Brilliant,
mate. He's making rock bottom look like an achievement. Honestly, it's ridiculous, and I get really sick of seeing things online where people go, "Oh, it's only a year into it. It's a progress. It's a project." Oh God! How many more fucking projects are we going to go through?
Or £400 million worth of transfer fees.
Exactly. It's I have no problem with us losing to a better team or to a team that wanted it more if we gave it all. The fact that we had rolled over and had our tummies tickled in the second half. Honestly, my dead hamster would have put up more of a fight. It's ridiculous. And I don't see how. Sorry, mate. I don't see how from where we were last year to where we are now, from about the 10th or 11th game on, that he's learned anything.
You know what? He waffles a load of old shite as well. You listen to him and he just comes across as a complete blithering idiot.
Well, I call it word salad, is it? It's word salad.
Well, I call it round the campfire, because he lapses into this mode where he is eminently comfortable. And he goes, well, yeah, I'm looking at a person. My voice is going to Welsh, Australian. But, I'm looking at a person, mate, and I'm thinking about the character of the man. And we get this homespun just nonsense, this sort of generic, the reason we fall, mate, is so we have to get up again. It's fridge magnet territory in terms of the IQ levels being deployed. And I just don't buy it. I know when somebody's, it's like it's just city, that sponge, that cabbage that the club wheel out. He's never going to say anything of any great worth or inherent value about football because the guy's a dum-dum. He's not a bad person, but he's a dummy. He's a dummy. And Ange wandering into this, I remember when I was fortunate enough to work with Mr. Pushkas for 3 years, and I'm thinking that is a long time ago. That is a long time ago. It's about like these people who claim to have a pivotal role, and yes, Tim Sherwood, I'm looking at you, in a career or something. That was a long time ago, and you weren't really that pivotal. You're hanging your hat on somebody else's peg.
Well, you look at the Peps and the Joses of this world, where they came from and where they learnt, what they did at the Barca's and all these sorts of things when they were assistant managers, etc. They actually don't live on those past glories because they made it happen. Well, they became successful.
The quote you get from Jose is quite amusing because his CV is such a stellar thing. You get people moaning, but that's what moaning people do. His CV is such a stellar document, such a factual account of what he's achieved, that the only comment you tend to get from him, unless he's like sitting around having a cigar and a beer and talking about, whatever, is that he'll draw reference to the fact that, any fond memories of the domestic cups in England, Jose? Well, only Tottenham, where I wasn't allowed to win one. He speaks of the exceptions, whereas this guy comes out with absolute piffle. That, as I keep on saying, if you're 12 and the teacher says to you, right, gather around all the little kiddies, I'm going to tell you a story. And little Red Riding Hood went into past the river and into the forest. That is interesting when you're under 12. You will listen to this nonsense, this fantasy with a warning in it. But Angie's coming out with this stuff, and I know I'm not his market. I know if I wanted to be surrounded by people, I go to Reddit or Coys on Reddit. There's probably some dungeon construction things of forums where people are discussing these things. But grown-ups, not for me. And he spent such a ton of money.
I've got to say, the more I see of Ange Postecoglou, the more I dislike him. I think he comes across as very arrogant, very stubborn, and almost like an unlikable type of guy. Initially, he was that guy we'd all stop and share a beer with, and he'd be great sitting at the bar. But now you're putting him under a bit of pressure. He's getting a bit prickly, a bit spiky, and he's starting to come across as a bit of an arsehole. If I'm being honest.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that, to be honest. I don't mind him being a bit prickly because even the Joses of the world, they got prickly, but they backed it up.
Yeah.
That's a bit different, isn't it?
Yeah. But what do we think? We're probably going to go through this every show, but I mean, we're coming to the end of this game. But just going back to the kids, because Mikey Moore, I have to say, I wasn't blown away by him because I kept in my head that this wasn't a great side we were playing, but he was good. He was exceptional for a 17-year-old. What is the deal with these youth players and what is his reticence? Just briefly, Tony, what do you think the deal is? Because he clearly doesn't kind of trust them.
No, but I think that that is because he's being obtuse and stubborn. He insists that his way is the right way. He knows best, even in the face of clear and certain evidence that is not the case. He's just not going to change. He is not going to change. He is not going to do anything because it's an admission of failure for him. I don't know whether it's pride or whether it's, we say arrogance. It could be pride. It could be a number of different things. But the key element is, he said it more often than not, I am not going to change. Well, if you're not going to change, guess what, mate? You can sod off. Because good managers know when to change. They know when to adapt. They know how to adapt. They make changes where they're crucial. They get on with it. They learn from their mistakes and they try to do better. He just doesn't do that. He keeps saying, that's who we are, mate. Well, great. That's who we are, mate. I swear to God, honestly, it's just unbelievable. And it's no coincidence. Conte's at Napoli, top of the Serie A, aren't they? That's a coincidence.
Do you know what my biggest bugbear with Postecoglou was yesterday? That when we went 2-1, when we were 2-0 up and we went 1 down, if he had anything about him, he takes off Werner and he puts Bissouma on, so you've got an extra pair of legs in midfield to sit in front of the back four. But what on earth, when we're then 3-2 down with 20 minutes to go, does he bring on, who did he bring on? Bissouma and Papassar. So we've not laid a single glove on the opposition for the second 45 minutes. We're chasing a draw and if not a victory, but you're not putting any attacking threat on. Why didn't you just go all or nothing and put on Lancashire as you've got another forward, and put on Mikey Moore? Why not go out?
He didn't bring Bissouma on. Bissouma and Sarr didn't come on until the 79th minute.
That's what I'm saying. But it's completely wrong substitution.
And when they did come on, I would argue that tactically that side was set up to incorrectly get much good out of them, because Brighton had pushed up. Brighton had been told on the 46th minute or whatever it was when they went in. When they go back out, come on, going to move a couple of you around, but I want you to really get on the front foot with them, because we're sitting back and taking it. That's why they're 2 goals ahead. And that's why, perhaps, this is why I'm piecing this together, it's just a suspicion, that they scored 3 goals in 25 minutes or whatever it was. And Spurs continued not to blow up, not to come out of our shells. Spurs continue to look like somebody who is waiting for the 3rd and the 4th goal to go in. I mean, Brighton's expected goal number, I haven't got in front of me, but it was suggested that they could have scored 4. I mean, I honestly think that Ange stood there and realised, like I said, the guy backing his car out of the garage, what's that screaming? Oh no, didn't check the bloody mirror, mate. And I think that's what happened. I could be wrong. Maybe we'll never see Destiny Udogie in a Spurs shirt again, and he'll announce that he's putting Timo Werner up on the transfer market ahead of the winter window. But I don't think that's what happened, because he was so slow to react. And even when he did, no, go on.
I thought Paul O'Keefe made some good comments that I'm sure was shared in our shared chat group. It's perfectly fair to question a manager when he stood on the touchline shaking his head. Go on about mentality all you like, but what signal is that sending? You're not fan, mate. You're the gaffer. They're looking at you as much as you're looking at them. He was poor today. He's been poor more often this season than he has good. And that we've been stumbling into a result of yesterday's nature. Like we said, Carabag had 14 opportunities on goal. A half-decent team punishes us. When we come up against West Ham next game on Saturday the 19th, a London derby, they always raise their game for us. If we don't show a bit more bottle of backbone, we'll get turned over by them as well.
Yeah, I think that the supposition, the thought that we were going to have difficulties against a team that were better than adequate, because we played a lot of inadequate sides. We played a fair few borderline adequate sides that are supposedly, imploding in front of their own fan bases, sides that can't get a decent price from an array of bookmakers. I always look at Odds Checker, not because they give me any money. It just tells me all of the betting companies where they are. You can see from those numbers that they don't have confidence in certain sides, and they're right to do so. But as I say, you put back a horse at 7-1. You don't back a football team at 7-1. And I think that he's got to make some changes. Now, I was very quick to respond to Conte, because people say, oh, yeah, we need to sort this out. He keeps on talking about improvement, but, he's being paid the big money. He can only work within his template. That's my view. I could be wrong, but I always think the managers have a template. It's pretty strict. It's a narrow brief of how they feel that they've achieved success in the past and what they're bringing to the job at the current moment in time. But with Ange, I don't think that tactically he's implementing his own system at a sufficiently adequate way. I think we're just getting a sort of we get it. We understand what you're telling the lads, but if you're going to put two midfield players on, arguably 20-30 minutes after they should have been on anyway, but then get them to play in a too advanced position where that midfield area is already like treacle. There's no room to move. There's no fluidity, and you're not pinging long balls. It's just going to be a disaster. It's like he didn't even understand his own playbook. But I wait for it. I think West Ham will always look to take lumps out of Spurs. Manchester City won't hesitate to euthanize us when they come to town. So I think we're going to see some more of this, to put it mildly.
There's dark arts are needed. I remember there was a quote where he said, you talk about Arteta and the dark arts and what have you. And he said, I don't do that. That's not the way I work, the way I operate. Well, guess what? That's part of football. That's part of everybody's football lexicon. That is there. Yeah. I mean, it's how the Italians have won multiple trophies over the years. It's how any good clubs have an element of that in them. At 2-1 yesterday, someone like Arteta would have probably got someone injured, spent 5 minutes getting them to crawl around a bit, bring them all in, and then say, right, you need to do X, Y, and Z, get your shit sorted out, we'll do this. No, just carry on. Oh dear, what happened?
Well, that was the face that we got from him, and all the other mannerisms. The face we got from him was, this is really badly broken. But, we're going to go back into the changing room. And, I half suspect that some of these international superstars were already in their suitcase. An old boss of mine used to say to a guy a couple of days before he went on holiday, you're no good to me, your head's in your suitcase. And I think there's probably an argument there to be made, certainly for Cuti Romero. And he's probably not alone. But tactically, I think Ange realised that he had bungled his own playbook, which is not a crime to be taken lightly. So wish him well. I actually think my big sort of takeaway, what did you learn, is I think our 10 good games have just come at a different time of the year this year. They've kind of come early. So made lots of opportunities, didn't kill the teams off. Then we played some absolute junk, did kill them off. And now I've got a feeling our 10 good games is going to look like something we've never seen before. This season is going to be about the 6 or whatever it was, good games that we had. Those couple of games in Europe, might eke another 1 or 2 of those out in the lower echelons of that tournament.
I've just seen a good one. Aussie our dealers.
I couldn't even recognise that if you gave me... No, it's not going to work. What's he doing?
So it's Aussie Ardiles superimposed with his cap and...
right, okay.
With the caption, Aussie Ardiles. And you think, you're not too far from the truth there, are you?
Yeah, I think there's going to be some stuff about him come out over the break.
One of the best ones I've seen online is Ange Postecoglou.
Yeah, they write themselves. And the problem is he leaves the garden gate open for everybody to come in with this stuff. If he was a bit more bullish and a bit more kind of looking you in the eye and all the stuff that we've been sort of moaning about, if he had a bit more sort of zing about him, and I know it's part and parcel of his character, and we've got these incels who watched him in Scotland and in Tokyo said, oh, that's what he does, mate. He's a superstar. He's not looking like a superstar at the moment. He's looking like a guy that is sadly still out of his depth. Sure, let's play Brentwood Ladies and beat them 16-2, and we can all have high fives and a big hug and go home for tea and medals. But that isn't the point.
And what about the nature of yesterday that concerns me, apart from all the things that we've been talking about, is those 5 games, regardless of the fact what the opposition was. Some players like Johnson were just beginning to start getting some confidence going.
Yeah, yeah.
And again, yesterday Johnson did well in the first half, scored his goal well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so I was thinking, great, I'm really pleased. I'm chuffed because I've been one of his biggest critics online, and I will happily go down and say, no, fair play. He's responded, he's reacted, perhaps a bit of social. I don't trust me. I'm not a bully on social media, and I don't go like that because my daughter's been social media bullied since she was at school. I know what the impact that can have.
Sure,
I know what it can have, but I don't. Anybody who doesn't perform it can be criticised. You can criticize somebody, not personally, but some of this stuff I saw online was really distasteful. But I was critical of his performances because he wasn't performing, not because I wanted to attack him as a person. The fact is, somebody like him now, after that game, he's done all he can do, and yet he's now looking around him and there's nobody else there. What's it going to do for that guy's confidence moving forward? Because he's just got himself into a really good headspace where he's doing really well, he's performing, he's scoring, he looks happier, and something like this can really, really just smack you right straight back down again.
No, I agree with you on the social media thing. I have been guilty of it myself in the past. I still do it occasionally when I lose my temper because I'm not a perfect person. Obviously, booing, you don't boo people into upping their game. That's not how it works. You go hooray to cheer them on, and you go boo to encourage them to go home early. That's how that works. But I think Johnson he's only guilty of, by association, being in such a coveted environment, this bubble where the idea of a probing question is, did something horrible happen to you in your childhood that we can use as a thing whereby that we give you a break? What's your favourite colour? If you had a superpower, what would it be? All of this banal garbage that they get fed. And like I said to you before, I mean, I know I'm of a certain vintage, but look at James Maddison's box. It looks like a 15-year-old boy's bedroom. Now, somebody should have said to him, even if they were lying, somebody should have said to him, we can do anything in here. You've got full run. No, we're not going to be able to put pictures of your children in your shirts celebrating having scored a goal or whatever nonsense you've got there. This stuff leaves one open to ridicule. And this comes back to Tottenham and about rainbows and hugging people and the diversity, equity, inclusivity and people like Kamala Harris. Unfortunately, the world isn't all rainbows and lollipops. And some people will say, you look ridiculous. Well, have you ever considered having a close brush with a toothbrush? Some people don't say nice things, but you leave the garden gate open, like I said, as Ange has done himself this game. And I just think there's too much of it at Tottenham. I look at other clubs, I don't see this cosseted sort of, you're really excited for the weekend then. It's like when Del Boy speaks to Rodney, when he's about to sell him a plastic lemon or something. It's just ridiculous.
The amount of ridiculousness I saw on social media yesterday with people thinking if we won, it pushed us into the title picture. I was thinking, you look fucking mad or something. We've played a load of shit teams. We've got shit results. And all of a sudden, people are egging us on to be pushing Liverpool and Man City the whole way. Have you not seen our last 7 games? Yeah.
I mean, I would round all of these bastards up and get them to the well done for playing awards that they've made in their bedrooms, and I would all super glue them together and throw them in the ocean.
I think
we need to have an environment where people want to where meritocracy is everything. So we don't care if you're black, Chinese, or have only got one leg. Meritocracy rules. Everything else sucks. And yeah, sure, be polite and kind and friendly to people. Kind's a really bad word these days because it's normally linked to suicide. But be nice, do the right thing where you can, but don't treat everybody like they're an idiot and say, this is Brendan Johnson. Do you want to have a look at his? I'm terrified. If he has a box at Spurs, I'm terrified to look at it.
Sorry, but the thing is with this as well, you talk about kind and what have you. If you're a good football manager, you're ruthless. End of story. Pep and João Cancelo. That was it. That was like, sorry, mate, you're not doing what I'm asking you to do. You're on your bike. Yeah. Gone. End of story. No discussion, no debate. You're out of here. That's it. Thank you very much. Ta-ta. And he's done that on more than one occasion.
But we live in a culture where newspapers will have, say, like when Jose Mourinho takes over a club, will run columns digging through the archives to find out a top 10 of players that he's fallen out with, as if that's some class of weakness, as if this guy isn't actually okay in the coconut. He falls out, he shouts at people. He probably says rude words. He said a rude word when he was the Spurs coach. And he is right. You need to use rude words in circumstances where it's life or death. And that's how they look at football. These people don't look at football as if it's life or death. They're just wondering why they can't drive a Tesla. You know, the new big metal truck. Why it can't get past the safety standards, because they want the biggest, shiniest toy. And it's that mentality. And it's that DNA you were talking about when we started, that loser streak. Oh, we're 2-0 up. We're away from home. Oh, I wonder what we should do. Well, first thing you should do is stop thinking and just, use your tactical wisdom that's brought you this far to make sure you kill them off. But Ange didn't implement his own tools, which was just terrifying, frankly.
Let me pause you there, H. While we've been speaking, somebody sent me another link. Question to Ange: were you tempted to make your subs earlier as the game was turning? Yeah, I could have, but all these things are totally irrelevant to me. Substitutions and all those kinds of things. If you're not competitive, it doesn't matter what you do. You're not going to get rewards. You don't deserve to win. We didn't deserve, on our second half performance, irrespective of subs or anything else, to get something out of the game. There's our manager.
Wow, he's really there in the trenches checking the bayonets are fixed, isn't he? What a banana.
Rather than try and salvage a point, rather than try and salvage a point.
Can you imagine him? Can you imagine him as Winston Churchill during the Second World War?
We would be under Nazi occupation.
I'm sorry, I've got to say it, mate. That is just the biggest load of shite I've heard for years. We'd be Germans by now with that attitude.
We're just going over live to Westminster, where Sir Winston is taking to the stand. Oh no, he's gone down the shop to get some fags. Absolutely hopeless. Absolutely hopeless.
H, you had big gigs in the rag trade once upon a time, and
allegedly.
you worked for FTSE 100 companies. When you were in your senior position, if you got wind of a subordinate saying things like that, you'd have marched them straight out the door, wouldn't you?
Yeah, because what you do is you contain the poison, and occasionally poison is somebody trying to steal something, but most of the time it's somebody sharing something to other colleagues, which is not just inappropriate, but it's nuts, and you don't want it to spread. So if somebody's wandering around going, "Oh yeah, well I came in late yesterday," and you pull them over and you said, "No, mate, it doesn't work like that." And they're the guys that when you do pull them, and say something to you, they go, yeah, okay. And then you cut them, you end their time with you, and you get all these faces, but I've been here for 8 years. Well, by rights, I should be asking you for a partial refund. You're hopeless. And that's how you have to be, because you're only as good as your own productivity. And this guy doesn't sound very productive. This guy sounds like, this is my way or the highway. And by the way, does anybody know where the nearest motorway is? Absolutely clueless. He clearly doesn't have any faith in his subs. Desperate.
No. Well, when you think about it, when you look at what was yesterday, when you look at the substitutions, when you look at the bench, though, and this comes back to our grand overlord at the end of the day, because you can put Eddie Patsy in charge. Unfortunately we've got a Patsy who actually is a genuine Patsy, who really doesn't have a clue. So we're finding that out very quickly. But when you've got the Minnesota Vikings against the New York Jets, which is frankly that's the only brand of football that really matters to him.
Yeah.
Because that's what brings in the money, because the rest of it is all window dressing. And I'm sorry, you got Bergvall, he's a really great prospect. Bissouma, well, yeah, okay. Spence could be if he gets a bit of game. And what's he again? He had a couple of good games. What's he doing?
Yeah, when what's he doing on the bench? As he's playing, why not give Spence a run of 5 or 6 games?
I get the feeling with Spence it's very easy to throw out comments because everything's so sensitive these days. But I get the sense with this that you've got this black kid who's been a little bit uppity, a little bit kind of, yeah, whatever, mate. And Ange has gone down this line with him that you're going to listen to me and you're going to, dance to my tune. And if you don't, there are consequences. And that's clearly defined for you. But he's not giving him a go. He's not letting him come back in. Now, maybe he's turning up half an hour late to training. Maybe he's not putting his tray away from the refectory when they've had their mid-morning snack. Maybe he's an absolute, like you walk into a room and there's a bad smell or a drink spilt and everybody goes, yeah, sorry, Gaffer, it was Jed. In which case you need to have a proper sit down with him. But I don't think he's doing that. I don't get the impression he's doing that. We saw him play that time when we hadn't seen him for a long time. He was very mechanical and sort of personalityless in the way he moved the ball around. Very kind of, I can't go further than here. I must always make passes to either that side or the left or that side slightly to the right. It was all very mapped out. And he didn't get put on the list for the Europa thing, which is another insanity because we're taking duff players. I don't care about the homegrown thing. I don't care about all of this other nonsense. You don't want anybody on that, I suddenly said boat, but anyone on that plane that isn't a good footballer. And Fraser Forster and those other two dummies, we're going to have to take a chance. Going to have to take a chance and just bring Vicario and actually just go out and buy a bloody goalkeeper. But that kid should be more involved because he wasn't for free. He's not come to us on a YTS thing. He's not on a program out of some prison. He deserves a fair go. And I say the same for Bergvall. And using Gray, who is a player I've said before, singularly has failed to impress me. He's just been exceptionally competent, but not anything more than that. Cost a lot of money. And we're using him as a mop-up player and smearing his good name, or what's left of it, with this business that he's versatile. Well, I don't want versatile. I want experts. I want people's talent to come through.
Southampton played Arsenal Saturday and they had that Tyler Dibbling, the 18-year-old central midfielder. A throwback to the old days, socks around his ankles. And they gave him the opportunity to play, but they played him in his position. All I will say for Gray is the poor lad is a central midfielder. So wherever we played him, we played him right back, we played him centre back, we played him left back. How about playing him where he actually needs to play? Because he can't have been any worse in that position than Bentancur was yesterday.
It's who we are, mate.
Yeah, it's what we do.
And on that note, another landslide for the latest project brought to you by Enfield Funtime Novelties Limited. Thank you very much. Good luck and keep it Tottenham. Thank you very much, gentlemen. An hour and 7 minutes.
You kept on.
I think that could have gone on a lot longer. That could have gone on a lot longer.
I had more to give, but I just saw the clock rolling on there and thought I'd give us all a break.
Tony, did H pause a few times on your stream?
Oh, yes, you did. You both ducked out. The good thing with this Riverside thing, I'm going to have a look at it this week. I've got a little bit more time. I had a lot on the last couple of days. But no matter how horrific is it on here, the sound I can do very little with. That's at the moment, but there is a sound studio in this, and this is a significantly more expensive product than the other junk and the product everybody else uses. That
StreamYard or something.
StreamYard, yeah, it's no good at all. But you throw all of this into in one end of the machine, and it comes out the other, and you go, that's actually all right. But I think
it takes the best three, does it? Because we're all uploading at the same time. I wonder if it does like a sort of it has some sort of algorithm where it puts it all in together and comes out with like a finished product that looks, professional. Basically,
you'll be unsurprised to hear that I didn't read any of that. That one doesn't work. Give us this next one,
mate. If things carry on the way they are, mate, when you ring them up to get some technical, it'll be good day, mate. How can I help you?
Hang on, I know that voice.
Yes.
Right. Good luck, kids. Speak to you soon.
Yep. Have a good one, guys.
Cheers, fellas.
Take care.
Bye-bye.